Welcome to the third video in the interview series about the ethics of the proxy industry. Today I'm talking to Neil Amy. Neil is CEO of Blazing SEO, a company that went from saying do not buy residential proxies to calling themselves the ethical residential proxy provider. Neil, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, this is Neil Amy, Blazing SEO CEO and founder.
Great. So my first question is, well, the first one that comes up on Google search when you type are proxies. Clearly the people are curious. So Neil, are proxies always legal? Are they an ethical product in principle?
Yes and yes, in the right hands and in the right context. Obviously, if you use a proxy to hide your anonymity and you try to go hacking a website or something, that's illegal. The person using the proxy is creating an illegal act. It's no different than if you were to buy a hammer and go break some glass with it. The hammer itself is not illegal. The person who bought it and went and committed the crime is doing something illegal. Same thing on ethics. Proxies themselves are just a tool online that you can use how you choose, and by way of how you use it can be ethical or unethical.
It's a very good analogy there. So what are the different ways that companies acquire IPs?
There's two big buckets. There's static proxies, which are going to be your data center. You can say ISP proxies is another term for some of them, but these are static. These are hosted in a data center facility. And the way that those are acquired is we, for example, work with many different ISPs around the globe, and we lease IPs from them. An IP itself is not a proxy. We take the IP, put it on our proprietary software and our servers, and create a proxy out of it via our custom proprietary software. And so these are static, so that's how it works. We have relationships with many different vendors. We compile it, put it into our server and our software, and we offer the proxy service to customers. The other way, and how proxies are acquired, is residential proxies. So residential proxies are millions, usually, of end user devices around the world, just a user. It's not an ISP. It's like the data center side, we have a relationship, a contract with the end user device. It's just us, and then one end user device is consented to allow us to use their IP address from their device as a proxy. So it's no longer the same B2B kind of, it's more B2C. We have a B2C with the consumers that allow us to use their IPs for building a residential proxy network.
So why should businesses care about finding an ethical proxy provider? I mean, does it have any legal or marketing implications on the business?
So when the question comes up of why businesses should care about the ethics of proxies, one thing we talk to our customers and leads that come in, we ask them, and there's some simple questions, just if you're working with a company that finds it ethically okay to acquire proxies, especially residential proxies, in malicious ways, definitely, but gray ways, probably a better way, that company is showing you that their ethics are at perhaps a different level than yours, and obviously ethics are a subjective definition. So when businesses ask, should I care about this? Well, do you want to work with a company that sees it okay as acquiring IPs from end user devices that don't know that they're being used as a proxy? Many of the providers in the market, unfortunately, acquire end user device proxy IPs with all means necessary, which a lot of times means malicious code, malicious software that the end user doesn't even know is being installed in their computer. Those are called botnets in most cases. And so as a business owner, when you're looking to search for a proxy provider, it comes down to the principles of it, of if they're willing to do that, then what other corners will they cut? How will they treat me in contract renegotiations? Do they care about me? Will they go to bat for me? All these other questions they can start spurring up based on that principle of how they're acquiring their residential IPs.
Yeah, it's a very interesting point, actually. So the way a proxy provider treats its proxy peers hints to how it treats its clients, right? Neil, how exactly is Blazing SEO getting its proxies?
When we are acquiring our residential proxies, especially, I explained how we acquire our static IPs. We have a B2B relationship with a Verizon or like a Comcast or Spectrum or whoever we're working with. We lease IPs from them. On the B2C side, the residential side, the way we acquire acquire is two paths. One, we have proprietary software that we have a partnership with a company like Cash Raven. Cash Raven, and with our partnership there, acquires IPs by working with customers, or well, users, who say, yes, I want to sign up for your site, Cash Raven, and I want to sell my bandwidth and my IP address to you, which then gets sold to us. So we pay Cash Raven, who then pays the end user, and it's an everyone wins kind of situation. The end user is saying, yes, I know my device is going to be used as a proxy. I'm aware of some of the risks around that. I'm okay with that. I want the money. Pay me for me taking on that risk and selling my unused bandwidth. So we have this great relationship there and back. That's one way we acquire residential IPs. The other way is we do resell from a handful of other providers on the market that meet these same ethical requirements that we have. There's a lot that we could work with that would expand our pool size, but we don't, because they don't meet the same ethical, which is the end user must be getting compensated in some way for the IP that they are sharing. And reselling is very common in the industry, by the way. There's very few providers who have just their own, because it's hard to get that many millions. We have a portion that is relatively our own, but then we also resell, and everyone wins at the end of the day. So we have controls in place to check, make sure there's bans happening and not happening. We send traffic to different pools, and it diversifies everything out further, which is really great. So at the end of the day, those two paths, we make sure that they're both ethical, that the end user definitely knows what's going on, and then either via form of compensation, or we give them, for example, a better experience in, let's say, a game app that they're playing. We can give them free goodies in the game, or we take away ads or other things, and they're still saying, yes, I'm aware I'm being used as a proxy. We remind them every 30 days and say, hey, by the way, you're still being used as a proxy. Is that okay? You still want an ad-free experience? Hey, by the way, we do these nudges because, well, we want them to be aware what they're signing up for and committing to.
So I'd imagine having such a vigorous vetting process does actually take a toll on the size of your customer base. But how exactly has taking an ethical route affected Blazing SEO?
By us taking this ethical approach, our pool size is a little bit smaller than the others. And I say little, actually it's a lot, because again, a botnet, that's how you can get hundreds of millions of IPs. If you want to do it that way, that's illegal. So our pool size is smaller from one side. So that's the acquisition side. The other side where it hurts us, but we're proud of this, is that we really do vet our customers. So when a customer comes to us and says, hey, I want to use your residential proxies, we make sure it's for legal and ethical use cases. Legal is a little bit more clear, like the law says what the law is. Ethical, oh, there's a big range in there. And so we've turned down customers, thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars, where they said, hey, I'm looking to introduce a new provider. I want to pay $10,000 a month, for example. We say, okay, great, tell us your use case. And they'll explain their use case transparently and say like, yeah, I look to do mass spam. And we're like, wait a minute, we're not gonna use you. Well, funny enough, they're coming to us, one of our questions we ask in our lead, when we intake leads, is who are your current providers? And they'll mention a lot of the known providers in the market. I won't name drop. So again, ethics is a subjective definition, and everyone has their own definition of, hey, we are ethical. But we're confident and proud that when we see these people coming to us, when we say no, yeah, we're willing to turn down all this money, and we see our competitors, yeah, we'll take it, we'll take everything. It tells us that we're doing something right, and we believe it's the long-term future that this will provide for us.
So on Blazing SEO's website, it states that you're the only provider that meets your standard of ethical acquisition of residential proxies. Does that mean that you see yourself as the only ethical proxy provider in the market? Absolutely not.
And again, ethics is a subjective definition. I'm not antagonizing most people in this area. There are many providers that are ethical. Yes, they have that same kind of relationship with the end user device, and that's what the market should have more of. There are many who are not. And the way that you as a business owner can determine that is, and if you care about this, and back to the previous question of like, why should businesses care about it, is to ask them. Everyone says on their website that yes, we are ethical. Yes, we do this. We vet. When they say we vet our customers, every competitor you'll see of ours will say, yes, we vet our customers. But the example I gave previously shows that their vetting and their subjective definition is different. We think mass spamming is not something that's ethical. Others do. So you obviously, the viewer, has to determine where is your ethical stance. That's subjective to you, and everyone has their own way. And then based on that, ask the questions to the companies to determine, okay, do I feel safe and comfortable using this network? Am I going to use an IP that someone doesn't know I'm using it, and that could be illegal? It could somehow come back to me. Those are questions you can start asking yourself, and then ultimately you can come to the decision, like, is this provider, does it meet my ethical stance?
Is proxy consent enough? I mean, is it safe to be a proxy peer?
Those are all questions we hear from the end users, especially, but then our business customers are like, wait a minute, how is this? Are they aware that I'm sending my proxy traffic through them? It's legal, they're aware of it, at least our end users are aware of it. We're not hiding it, we're not just tucking it in terms of service. They're aware, yes, I know I'm being used as a proxy. Is it safe? It depends what traffic is going to that end user. So again, if a proxy company allows any traffic to go to the end user devices, even if the end user devices say, yes, I know I'm going to be a proxy, most end users don't know what kind of traffic can be sent through a proxy. Nefarious people use it to hack, for example. And so although they're saying, yes, I want to be a proxy, they're not saying, yes, I want my IP to be used for hacking, right? And so it's important on the proxy, the onus is on the proxy provider, us, to vet our customers to make sure they are not doing something that we would consider to be, well, definitely illegal, that's no, and definitely fits within our ethical stance. No, we don't allow that. So that we're protecting the end user for something that they don't explicitly know and shouldn't have to know. We just want to protect them at the end of the day.
So Neil, it's no secret that Blazing SEO's attitude towards residential proxies changed over the years. You openly didn't support residential proxies because of common shady sourcing practices, and then figured out an ethical way of sourcing and started selling them yourself. On a broader scale, how do you think the topic of ethics will impact the market moving forward?
A lot has evolved over the years. Botnets, unfortunately, have been around since the age of the internet. This new era of proxies, and especially data gathering, web scraping, is growing rapidly. And with that growth of people needing to fulfill their business data needs, it drives a supply and demand. Hey, there needs to be stronger and better proxy networks out there. Unfortunately, with that demand side, that's gonna create some companies to choose, hey, my customers need more IPs, so I need to choose an unethical approach to get millions and millions and millions and millions of them. And then there's the other path that says, no, for the long term, the decades into the future, the ethical approach, even though it means fewer customers, even though it means fewer acquired IPs, is the right approach. Because at the end of the day, the law is going to catch up with the unethical side of things. So it works today, and that's where people can cut corners, companies can cut corners, make more profit before the law catches up with it. But we believe that many of the unethical approaches that are being taken in the market today, not any individual that I'll single out, but the market in general, there's corners being cut because the laws don't really exist. And so we believe that the future, as data itself becomes the next oil, as they say, proxies have to follow suit in terms of being ethical and obviously legal and be ahead of the laws. The ethics have to be ahead of the laws. So we're confident in the path we're going, and our customers are appreciative of it, and we're happy where things are at today.
Well, Neil, thank you very much for your insights about the topic. It's been a pleasure chatting.
Thank you.
Before you go, check out our other interviews with proxy market leaders about ethicality within the industry. I'll see you there.